Welcome back to another episode of Ballers, Beers, and Banter. I'm your host, Dave. Here with me, we got a giant and a second chance field goal. Anthony and Moose.
What's up?
Hello, Dave.
Yeah.
These names are never relevant to either of the situations that Anthony and I are in.
But they're relevant to what happened just now in football.
I know, but the way you presented
In
it, it's
the
like
NFL.
it's like you're stating that Anthony and I are one of these two things.
Yeah. I mean, it's hard to always match up with you and the lives that you're living, but I feel like one of you could be a giant. Moose, you're a giant in our hearts.
So
in
is
fantasy
so
football.
So is Anthony.
Anthony's the missed field goal.
Anthony's
second chance field goal. Second chance field goal. He's a second chance field goal.
He's the missed field goal.
No, he's a second chance field goal. What did I say?
That's nice,
You
Dave.
called him the missed field goal.
I don't know why he's laughing. You're probably the missed field goal with no championships.
Except
wow.
the OG dynasty, but we won't get into that. Yeah, guys, Anthony almost missed the podcast tonight.
Anthony went right for the kill there.
Did you know, Moose, that Anthony almost missed the podcast tonight?
No way.
Well, he did miss it actually, but it's okay because the Giants were offside, so he got a second chance to come to the podcast. I thought that was funny. Washington, New York, man, what an ending! It's like neither team.
But again, the reference to me
I
is
was
like
very confused. I was confused.
Yeah.
I thought,
Oh god!
I thought there was an emergency or something in Anthony's family.
yeah.
No, gosh, no, I wouldn't like joke about that. There was an emergency in the Giants Washington game, and that is neither team was very good, and it looked like they were both trying to lose the game.
Hold on, pump the brakes.
My brakes have been pumped.
Washington looked great for a team that just lost their starting quarterback.
This is true.
Air quotes on starting quarterback.
And I know it's a little early for this, but
what do you mean? The guy they thought that would lead them through the whole season suddenly injured. So they have to bring in Taylor Heineke on a short week, get him all caught up, get him reps with everybody.
Oh, he's been caught up. I think
he did well.
I think Anthony's right. He would have taken over for Fitzpatrick at some point.
100%.
Well, we'll never know.
We might never know. We might never know.
But
we'll talk Giants Washington. We'll talk Giants Washington. Let's get into some headlines. Anthony, hit us with the first one.
OBJ will be sitting out this week again.
Boo!
So, people, if you didn't listen to us in the offseason, we said, don't draft this guy. This guy hasn't done anything for a couple years. I said,
well, hold on. He's changed his hair color a few times, Anthony.
Yeah,
like that
doesn't mean anything. Maybe he should change his body parts. I don't know. But
Odell Beckham, honestly, is like the first disappointment of the 2021 season.
Hold on. You're talking about, why are you bringing his dad into this? Or did you mean Odell Beckham Jr.?
Odell Beckham Jr.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay.
Usually, like players come in, whenever they play a couple games and they start disappointing. That's it. He didn't even start a game. Yeah, I'm super healthy. I'm ready to go. I'm the best I've ever been. Oh, just kidding. I can't play.
But he said something in the preseason. He's like, "You'll just have to see," and I'm like, "He ain't playing. He ain't playing." We'll see when the season starts.
Everybody who drafted him, I feel so sorry for you. Don't hang around and wait.
Don't that much. That was me last year, and Anthony warned me last year.
Yeah, drop him.
So that now you got been warned twice. If you're listening to the podcast, so.
Immediately drop him or trade him to the league taco, and just pick up anybody. Literally anybody else.
I might wait till he plays. I might wait till he plays a game and catches a few balls, then trade him.
No.
I mean, you're not going to get good.
Well, nobody's going to trade for him now.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Trade him to the league taco because that's the only person who's going to take him.
Which is like reference to the league.
But right now, if you have him on your team, you are the taco. So literally just go get anybody else.
I had some tacos for lunch today. They were fantastic.
You probably have Odell Beckham on your team as well.
Not this year.
None on none teams.
And just a little side note. So my sleeper, Jarvis Landry, who we'll speak about later, looking good so far. So
he is looking good, but we'll talk about that. Next headline. Next.
Alrighty. So Josh Jacobs has been sitting out. Well, I'll use the proper term.
We're just rolling headlines of people who disappoint fantasy players.
But what are you saying? Josh Jacobs was not a disappointment last week.
You don't remember last year when he came out and said, "I could care less about your fantasy teams," and rubbed it in everyone's faces.
But again, his yardage was
last year, Dave. That's last year.
Yeah, but he didn't disappoint this last week that just passed.
No, he was great. Two tutties. He'll have 4 points this week.
I don't care what he thinks about my fantasy team as long as he's scoring tutties.
Right. But he was, I also use the proper term, sidelined Wednesday. He got 2 touchdowns, but he didn't have the yardage, so it's a little alarming, and he did look hurt. So
wait, no, he is hurt. He had toe surgery.
Yeah. But it looked it. It's not like he played through it and he looked healthy and we're like, he can play through it. So,
but he did play through it.
But we don't know if he'll play through it. This is what I'm saying. This is a player.
He went to the market one too many times.
But this is what we say about him. He plays hurt. He looks hurt. Sometimes, like some of the games, we won't know he'll be a game time decision. So always have your notifications on. Pay attention to him. If he's on a later game, put him in the flex spot so you can switch him out if need be last minute. So
we can safely call him the Julio Jones of running backs.
Right.
I don't know if he's earned that yet, but
playing
well,
hampered. It was more for the playing hampered.
He had almost 20. He had either just like under 20 points or 20 points off of tutties, and he could easily get nothing like Julio Jones. So I mean, he's putting up big numbers.
He is turning into a touchdown dependent. He already kind of was last year, a touchdown dependent running back. He ended up in the RB1 class of such running back last year. I fear he will be in the RB2 class of touchdown dependent running back this year.
Yeah. So that was Wednesday and Thursday where he was sidelined.
One thing we can confirm though is
he used both sidelines. So Wednesday was on one sideline and Thursday was on the other?
Probably.
One thing we can confirm though is that he is not the best player that John Gruden has ever coached.
No. And because that is Darren Waller.
That is Darren Waller.
And that is clear in the if number of targets you give a player is how good you think they are, then that's clear because he got 19 targets last week. Wild. Next headline, I think. Next.
So another favorite, always injured player, especially of Moose, Will Fuller, Roman numeral 5, undisclosed.
Well, hold on. To be clear, he's not my favorite player. He's my favorite player to make fun of for being just constantly injured. I feel bad for him. It sucks.
Mike Williams is up there. Oh, for being injured?
No. Nobody is above Will Fuller.
Okay.
Will Fuller is the poster athlete for being injured.
Unfortunately, and we don't wish injury upon anyone.
No.
Which we have to continually remind our listeners.
I don't think we do.
Whenever Moose is on the podcast.
I don't think we do.
Because always.
Not once have I ever said that I wished injury on person. But what do you want from me? The guy's injured every season.
No, but when you say like he ranks as my favorite person to make fun of for being injured, or the poster boy of being injured, listeners might get confused.
Well, I don't think so. I mean,
okay.
I mean, we warn
the guy's
people
injured.
about these players.
The guy walks, he leaves his house, he gets injured. Like, this is what it is.
Okay.
Where there's a Will, there's a Fuller injury. All right, what do we got? So he's out this week. What is the deal?
Undisclosed injury. So we don't even know if he's out.
He's just absent from practice. Yeah. So we don't know if it's off the field issues, family issues, injury related. I'm sure we'll find out, or we might not. He might just be inactive like some players were last week. Just pay attention to the news, the headlines coming out in the next couple of days. On to Baltimore. They're going to use every running back pretty much, and they activated Devontae Freeman off the active roster.
Is that your statement?
No. So this is per, and we had this issue yesterday. Is it John Harbaugh? It's John Harbaugh, right? On Baltimore. Anyways, Harbaugh.
Yes.
Suggests
Jim's
Ravens.
Michigan. I always mix them up. Go ahead. Keep going.
John Harbaugh suggests Ravens will play every running back. So I don't know if he's going to pull a San Francisco
confirmed.
Here. John. We don't know if they're going to pull a San Francisco here, if they're actually going to use Tyson Williams and, just confuse the other teams.
Anthony, hold on. We can break this down pretty simply. Tyson Williams is he's going to get the most opportunity. Latavius Murray is going to run for 2 yards every play, maybe trip in for a touchdown. And Devonta Freeman was cut for Latavius Murray. So you better believe he's just a death piece. So there's no way that you can think.
It sounded like you said death piece.
I'm just reading the news. We already said this Monday.
But let's not leave it up to speculation. Let's for our listeners, I think we can all agree.
It's not
Tyson. If you have to play him, is a safe bet.
The three of us have been pretty firm that Tyson Williams.
Tyson's the only playable back.
Actually, Dave and I suggested that you should start Tyson Williams last week. So actually, you're the odd one out. Yep. So get on the train, Moose.
I never said anything. I never said anything about anyone being the odd one out.
Consensus rankings. Who rated him a 1 beer out of 6?
None of us. I rated him a 3.
Dave.
I don't have the facts.
You brought the numbers way down. You put him at a 1 or a 2. That is hands down what you did. So Dave and I were right. And Moose hopped on the bandwagon.
Dude, Dave, I hopped on the bandwagon before anyone even knew who Tyson Williams was.
Moose, it's okay. There's plenty of room on our bandwagon. You're welcome. Yeah. I would love to have you on it.
But anyways, so instead of leaving it vaguely up there with a comment from John Harbaugh, you can safely start Tyson Williams if you need to.
Yes. And don't start Latavius Murray or Devonta Freeman. Probably, maybe don't even roster them. Don't roster Freeman. Maybe Murray, but probably not, right?
No, because you won't know.
Okay, that's what I'm saying.
But if people have already picked him up, which people did, which they did with Freeman, which they did with Le'Veon Bell, I would say drop Le'Veon Bell, drop Freeman. You can keep Latavius Murray if you're really already screwed at running back, but don't start Latavius Murray. Tyson Williams is the only start there. Tyson Williams in half PPR leagues will be relevant because he's going to get the targets out the backfield. You will never know when Latavius Murray is going to fall into the end zone, so don't start him. He's literally just a handcuff in case somebody gets injured.
Unless you went 0 running back or owned all of Cam Akers, Travis Etienne, and
J.K.
Dobbins
before they got hurt.
Yeah, you shouldn't.
And Gus Edwards.
Gus Edwards.
You shouldn't have Latavius Murray.
Right. I don't know. There were some people. I won't put the names out there because they probably feel a little bit bad with their teams. But I saw some rosters today where people did not listen to our podcast and had almost 0 running back depth. And they were like, help me. I was like, well, bud, I'm like, you're going to pick up some guys that aren't going to do anything for your team. So, yeah, poor those guys. Moving on. Dave, you wanted to mention.
Well, first, Gus Edwards put me in a tough spot that
this is
my
true.
running back depth is pretty weak. So I put in I know the podcast we're talking about 25%, maybe 30% of your fab for Elijah Mitchell. And I did that in some leagues. I won some, lost some. But then in the league that I lost Gus Edwards, I put a very aggressive fab bid in because I thought it would go very high.
But Dave, you could have got it for half the amount you bid.
I know. It was a terrible bid. Terrible bid. If let's say he gets hurt and I need another guy, I know, but it was a bad bid. But I thought people would put in more. I did get him.
And then what happened? So this is another headline. What did San Francisco do? They proceeded to sign 2 more.
Kerryon Johnson and Trenton Cannon.
Trenton Cannon?
Or Trenton Cannon.
Trent Cannon.
Cannon.
I'm not super worried. Like, I know San Francisco, they love to have running back depth. They use a lot of people, but I'm not super worried. It's going to be Elijah Mitchell and Trey Sermon. They'll both get usage. But when Jeff Wilson comes back, I would worry about both.
Well, I think you should just worry anyways because we've seen JaMychal Hasty get in there.
You have to worry about Hasty poaching touchdowns.
And then I mean, San Francisco probably saw Trenton Cannon make 2 decent runs on Baltimore.
Trenton Cannon is there for special teams.
That's
sure. That's for sure.
But they saw him play in Baltimore. They're like, ooh, we're going to scoop him up just to confuse people. But so aggressive bet, Dave.
I put a bet. I needed to do something because if anybody needed Elijah Mitchell in that league, it was me. Yeah. So I put a bet on him earning that 1A spot in the 1A, 1B, potentially 1C San Francisco backfield. So
that's the thing. So we spoke about it last night on our live show, and I was saying that in the last 2 seasons, it's been an injury fest in the San Francisco backfield. I guess I have to say it. I don't wish that there was the injuries in San Francisco, but there were injuries.
There it is.
To Raheem Mostert, Matt Breida, Tevin Coleman. All of them had knee issues, and which forced
Jerick McKinnon,
which forced them into having like a lead back RB1 situation. But now Shanahan has his ideal situation. He has a bunch of young guys who all have fresh knees. So it's the chaos in that backfield is going to start all over again.
Yeah, indeed it will. It could. So those, if you did pick up Elijah Mitchell, don't get too excited yet. And if you have Trey Sermon, don't panic and drop him. Keep him on your roster, and we'll see what happens.
Yeah, there's going to be some real Bill Belichickian confusion in San Francisco. I know that for certain.
Likely. I wanted to talk about, this is a defensive headline. DeMarcus Lawrence, veteran edge rusher for the Dallas Cowboys, broke his foot in practice today. He's out for an undisclosed period of time. And Dallas news, guard Zach Martin is back. Veteran guard Zach Martin. So based on how Dallas played in week 1, and with the loss of DeMarcus Lawrence on an already somewhat weak defense, a strengthening of their O-line, this to me is the perfect storm. It's the perfect fantasy storm. Dallas will have a lighted up offense as long as Dak Prescott is behind center.
Oh, and can I just jump in?
Yeah.
Just on that Dak Prescott thing. So last week, I guess prior to the Cowboys game, we had highlighted that every 2 weeks he would need an MRI. Those have been canceled. His shoulder is healed up to a point where all MRIs are off the table. He's at 100% health.
That's great. That is great news because the MRI every 2 weeks scheduled was freaking me out. So that is good news. Dallas is shaping up to be the perfect storm in fantasy. They will be competing for best fantasy offense again, no doubt, because they have a great offense, a good O-line to protect Dak Prescott. They have weapons all over the place. And guess what? Their defense is still not that good. So they're going to be in shootouts. They're going to have to throw. They're going to have to be in these high-scoring games like they were against Tampa Bay. And it's going to be epic. So if you have Cowboys, start them all the time, everywhere. CeeDee Lamb, Amari Cooper. You might even want to. Cedric Wilson might be a sleeper. It's going to get wild up in Dallas. So
well, hold on.
That's going to be exciting.
Since you brought up Cedric Wilson, I don't think maybe Cedric Wilson's a sleeper. Even with Michael Gallup on the field, Cedric Wilson he got at least 4 or 5 targets in that first game.
So if you thought Gallup was worth having, then maybe Cedric Wilson is.
Yeah.
So that's what I have to say about Dallas. They're playing the Chargers this week. Chargers have a great defense, but I still think it's going to be somewhat of a shootout. I think, and the NFL just it's all shootouts. We saw Washington, Giants, 2 good defensive teams, poor offenses. What was the final score?
I'm not even upset about it.
33-30?
I'm not even upset.
Which one? The Dallas game?
No, the one that just happened tonight.
The Washington, and it was 29. No, it was 30-29 for Washington.
And
wild.
Correction, he got 3 targets, but he caught all 3 of his targets. So he's got good hands. He's a young talent. So definitely with Gallup out of there, he's a definite sleeper. And the last bit of news I wanted to mention, announced tonight during the game, there will be an in-season Hard Knocks. The Indianapolis Colts.
Maybe.
I'm excited. This is a team where I want to see what's going on behind the scenes.
Do you think that's why, maybe they got Carson Wentz, like the highest possible, top end surgery? They're like, hey man, we're doing Hard Knocks in season. We got to get your foot working.
No,
we can't have some
jabroni.
First
of all, the Hard Knocks is later. It's starting in November.
Yeah, but what would have 7 to 8 weeks been?
He came back about 4 weeks, so it would have been another few weeks. But they're doing the playoff push. So here's the cool thing. First of all, Hard Knocks, if you're not familiar, is the HBO special that usually follows the team during training camp up to the start of the season.
But hold on,
for the Dallas Cowboys this year.
But it'd be super boring if you weren't following a team that was maybe going to the playoffs.
Well, but this is the thing. So they're really betting that the Colts are going to be in a playoff hunt in November, which they should. It's a very weak division. It's, Jacksonville, Houston. I think we saw them in a shootout. Houston looked good, but let's be honest. And then Tennessee and Indianapolis. So I think they picked Indianapolis because these guys are for sure going to be in a spot for
well,
the playoffs.
Fix your foot, Carson. We got to do a Hard Knocks show.
But even if they're not, it's good TV in season. Like you're going to see screaming, you're going to see yelling. If they should be doing better,
so cool.
But I think it's way better because there's going to be frustration. You know, like preseason, everybody's like, "Oh, can't wait to get started." You know, if they have like a bit of a losing record, lost a couple of games, like they're going to be upset. It's going to be, you're going to see the stress. You're going to see the excitement if they win.
Yeah. And like,
that's why I said,
preseason, they're always following, like you said, Miss, they follow a lot of the rookies, the rookie players, the young guys, a little bit of the stars. And then you don't really see, you know, like what's, you know, like a lot, like them in stressful situations, or you don't see the, you know, the plays or the strategizing. This is going to be in the heat of it. Like,
yeah.
And I guess it's going to be, it might even be bad for the Colts because you're going to see a little bit behind the scenes as they go to the playoffs. No, they're going to be like, this is how they were strategizing to beat such and such team. You don't think so?
There's no way. Even when you watch it in the preseason, they don't show you anything. They would never. It's the same way they have the media segments of practice, and then there's the unfilmed part of practice. It's the same thing for Hard Knocks. There's no way.
So they're not showing their secret play. What's the secret play from Little Giants? The annexation. They talked about it in Hard Knocks. The annexation of Puerto Rico. Do you remember in the movie Little Giants? So they're not
when they
showing
leave the ball on the ground. And
yeah, like a little fumble Ruski play, a little fake play. Yeah, the annexation of Puerto Rico. I'm pretty sure is what it's called. Dak Prescott talks about it in Hard Knocks this year. Anyway, so they're not showing anyone the annexation of Puerto Rico. We'll have to vet that. And I'm surprised Moose hasn't already. Okay, is that it for headlines?
Yeah.
That's going to be fun. All right, well, we talked briefly about Giants Washington. One thing I'd like to point out, which, first let's talk about the Washington side of the ball real quick. Besides the game being like nobody deserving to win that game, and one of those teams will likely be winning their division after this week because the Cowboys are in tough against the Chargers, Philadelphia in tough against San Francisco. Just saying. What did you guys think about Gibson versus McKissick? We were talking about it briefly in the podcast. If you're a Gibson owner, you're pretty peeved, to say the least.
Well, I think McKissick doubled his points.
So Antonio Gibson in half.
It's not hard to double 6.
But yeah. Dave, is our halftime league?
Well, Antonio Gibson couldn't double 6.
Half point PPR?
I believe so.
Full? Yeah, so Gibson got 8.3 points and McKissick got 17.8. So
yes,
it's not PPR. You're not happy about it. So I have Gibson in one league. I do have McKissick as a handcuff. The interesting thing is, I think you still need to be patient with Gibson. It's very frustrating. I'm upset because I expect more, but his yards per carry, he's efficient. I think they said at one point in the game, it was over 5 yards per carry, which is good.
How many targets, how many rushing attempts did he get?
He had 13 carries versus McKissick's 4 carries. So McKissick, again, made all his points, from the touchdown, and he caught 5 for 6 for 83 yards. He had that big
yards.
He had that big
plate. He almost scored. He almost scored.
Yeah, but he also had a touchdown.
He had a rushing touchdown, yeah.
And on the 2-minute drills, they put in McKissick. So that's
key, I think.
Yeah, but you can never predict that either.
And also, I mean, I think we all anticipated Antonio Gibson to get the goal line work.
Yeah, I think if it wasn't a 2-minute drill and they were in like the red zone, I still think Gibson will get in there over McKissick. But
he didn't tonight.
Yeah, but they weren't. They were only in the red zone and that close for a running back to punch it in when it was in the 2-minute drill or when they were rushing. They didn't get there naturally in the middle of the game when there was still a lot of time left.
Were they in the 2-minute drill, that touchdown?
JD McKissick. They were in a hurry-up offense, to say
hurry-up offense.
So if McKissick was already on the field.
That was before the half?
Yeah, but so they use them. So that's what we need to correct. So it's not only the 2-minute drill, the hurry-up offense. So you're not subbing off players in the hurry-up offense. So if McKissick's
so if McKissick happened to be on the field, he's going to stay on the field. But
if it was Gibson, Gibson would have stayed on the field.
He definitely was using the 2-minute drill.
But I have a feeling maybe he's still hampered by injury. Maybe they're not using him that much. I don't know.
And don't panic. Like, listen, Moose, maybe you have a different take, but Gibson will be fine.
Hold on. I just want to touch on something Anthony just said right there.
Yeah, okay.
Because I forgot. He was dealing with a shoulder injury all week.
Yes, this is true. So it could be that.
Yeah.
And he really goes into the line. Like we saw some strong runs from him. So maybe he was sore.
The McKissick touchdown confirmed with 23 seconds left in the half.
Yeah.
So, but I wouldn't panic if you're the Gibson owner. And don't freak out yet. Still a long season, only week 2.
It's not ideal for sure.
And it's not ideal, but that's a great point, Moose. He was dealing with an injury this week. And last year, he was used to great effect, maybe overused. And he was the number 4 running back on the year in half PPR when he got injured. It was turf toe, I know, which could be whatever, but maybe he was being used too much. So I'd rather see him the reverse and get eased into it and then start to build up to his RB1 status.
And to give you an idea, so this is not good news either. The week after, I know I'm jumping ahead to week 3, but they're playing the Buffalo Bills. So we saw the Buffalo Bills.
As long as you're not jumping backwards, Anthony.
Well, you were the last. You two were the last ones to jump backwards.
Jumping.
So I've learned my lesson. But
it's like Mario Brothers. Okay, you can jump but forward, and then once you continually jump forward, you can't go back. Okay?
Thanks, Dave.
We're locked on the screen.
Thanks for explaining that.
It depends on the level.
Yes.
Go ahead.
So week 3, they're playing the Buffalo Bills, the Washington football team, and the Buffalo Bills shut down Najee Harris. Najee Harris week 1 was on the field the entire game.
100% of snaps.
Yeah.
Even when Buffalo was on offense. He was just like he was too much on the sideline. He was just
the interruptions are just beautiful today. So I would say probably go McKissick in that game over Gibson because they're going to be playing from behind and they're not going to keep Gibson on the field.
Bold take. I would not do that.
I would never do that. I would never suggest doing that.
So you would start Gibson, who's hampered by injury, over McKissick against the Buffalo Bills that shuts down the running back.
If by next week there's reports saying Antonio Gibson hampered by injury, maybe I'd consider it. But there's no way I'm starting McKissick over Gibson.
We'll circle back to that next week. I'll keep that in mind. I'll put it in the big old brain of mine. Yeah. And
you'll forget by tomorrow, but it's okay.
Nope. Buffalo Bills.
No.
Maybe there's not much. Maybe you should
as Gibson owners, I have Gibson on my team, so I need to look at that matchup. And it's already 2 bad weeks from him. So
if Gibson if you drafted Gibson as your RB2, if you went like running back
which
as your RB2, then maybe. If he's your RB1, I don't think
he's not my RB1.
You have the depth. I'm not talking to you. I'm saying the listeners.
Relax,
but nobody has him as an RB1 unless you drafted Kelsey or like Devontae Adams
or a wide receiver. Yeah, I'm sure plenty of people drafted them as their RB1. Yeah, very possible. Anyways, can we continue on?
Anything on the Giants side?
Yes, which is going to segue in. Daniel Jones is so fast, but not that great a quarterback.
So bad.
Yeah. But he's good. He's a good runner. He's a real good runner. Anthony has him as dynasty quarterbacks. We're just trying to rub it in a little bit.
But I benched him. He got 29 points. I mean, I don't expect Matt Ryan to put up 29 points against Tampa Bay. So hopefully my other players will save my butt for Matt Ryan's
Maybe
failures.
just start J.D. McKissick.
This coming from the guy that was going to bench Terry McLaurin today with 21 points. So
but Moose will never bench Terry McLaurin.
But did I? Exactly.
No. So maybe next week we'll wait. I don't know if you have McKissick. Well, Moose also said don't draft McKissick in any league, but has been fantasy relevant.
Moose is Terry McLaurin on him. Okay. So what were we talking about?
We're talking about how bad Daniel Jones is.
Yes or no?
Yes.
Okay, confirmed. Yes or no? The Giants wide receiver options are going to be the same situation as always, which is you got no idea who their wide receiver 1 is, no idea who's going to be good from week to week.
Their wide receiver 1 is Sterling Shepard.
Yes,
that's 100% without a doubt.
Okay, so how many points did Sterling Shepard have today?
13
compared to Galladay's.
Galladay had
5.3.
Hit me.
Galladay did not look great. I mean, I imagine he missed a lot of camp. Yeah. I imagine he missed a lot of camp.
Well done, Anthony.
With his hamstring injury. So maybe he's a little bit rusty, maybe shaking off the rust. He looked very frustrated on the sideline. I know I texted you guys and said,
he was yelling at Daniel Jones. I thought he was yelling at the trainer, but he was yelling at Daniel Jones.
Oh, is that who? I thought he was yelling at the trainer too.
I thought he was yelling at the trainer with the water bottles who looked real distraught. But I heard from a listener, one of our avid listeners, he thought he was yelling at Daniel Jones. I'll have to go back and look at the tape.
But I texted you guys because it reminded me of when Odell Beckham was with the New York Giants, and he was freaking out on the sidelines.
Did Galladay also dye his hair blonde?
I have no idea.
I have no idea.
But anyways, and then at one point I said to you guys, "Hey, is Darius Slayton even on this team anymore?" And then he randomly scores a touchdown. But then later in the game, wide open, and by wide I mean like 15 yards separation from the next defender, drops a ball that hits him right in the hands.
Doesn't this seem similar to Marquez Valdez-Scantling, where he drops a few like that too?
Yeah. Anyways, super embarrassing, not only for the defender, for Daniel Jones, for Darius Slayton, for the Giants as a whole. Yeah. So all Giants fans should be slightly embarrassed by the situation.
Yes. Now, so if Sterling Shepard's their wide receiver 1, he's not rostered in every league. Should he be rostered in every league?
Yes, because look at this stat line. First week, 9 targets, 7 receptions, 113 yards, and a touchdown. This week, 10 targets, 9 receptions, 94 yards. Didn't get the tutty, but he's
10 targets, double-digit targets.
I mean,
9 targets week 1, 10 targets.
Nothing to turn your nose up.
His health is usually the issue, and Daniel Jones.
You can have him on your bench, but I wouldn't start him week to week.
I'm not saying start, but he should be rostered. He should be rostered in every league.
On the bench.
If he's the clear wide receiver 1 on the team.
On your bench.
Okay, and then when they have a favorable matchup, you might put him in. Or bye weeks, you might put him in.
So I have an example of this. Another player that I will not... a fantasy player that I will not name has terrible receiving options. He has like Jacoby Myers.
I'm sure they're going to know who you're talking about. If
we immediately know who you're talking about. I know
probably, but I'm not gonna shout him out because this
the same person lost Jerry Jeudy to injury.
No, so these are his receivers.
You're just going to quietly crush their dreams by listing off their players.
Well, I told him this and he agreed. So Laviska Shenault, Jacoby Myers, Brandon Cooks, Aguilar, and Sterling Shepard.
He has two Patriots receivers.
Yeah.
Who was the last one? Who's the last one?
Sterling Shepard.
Okay.
So Cooks
and Cooks. Cooks is going to be okay.
Yeah, I said start Cooks. Right. I said start Sterling Shepard, and then I think I said Jacoby Myers or Laviska Shenault, but Laviska is playing Denver this week, so I said play Jacoby against the Jets.
Denver gave up a lot of points to the wide receiver position last week. Just saying. They play. Who did they play? Come on, man. The Giants. Sterling Shepard went off. Sterling Shepard went off last week.
Nobody else.
Galladay and Slayton were like about 10 points each.
Yeah,
10 to 12 points each. So
the other concern about Sterling Shepard is I don't wish this upon anybody, but he also never finishes.
See how often you talk about it now. Now you get it.
Yeah. But it's not that I'm wishing it on them.
I know
you have to know that if you roster them, be prepared to have to roster somebody else.
Certainly.
But Dave, so you're right. Galladay and Slayton almost got 10, but they didn't get into the double digits. Only one guy was very successful. And so, I mean, Trevor Lawrence is still learning. Denver defense.
Yeah, you're right. The Denver defense should be really strong. So
right. I mean,
I agree.
I said if you like Laviska over Jacoby Myers, I mean, do it. But listen, that's your flex spot.
The important thing here is that you call this person out now that you've listed their whole team.
I know, but I'm saying some people might need to start Sterling Shepard if they go RB heavy in a league and they thought they can hit on the wide receivers later in the draft, but he had to make that decision, and I told him to start Shepard, and he got 13 points, so not so bad.
The last Giant I want to talk about, guys, is Saquon Barkley. We correctly assessed his risk at 2 on our 6-pack scale, which is almost about as risky as it gets. The only reason we gave him 2 is out of respect for him being Saquon Barkley. And he got 7.9 points. He had one, and it was really off the back of one explosive 41-yard carry. Because two is pretty close to his average yards per carry.
Oh,
no, he's got 4 yards per carry, but he had negative yards on several plays.
Roll with the punches.
Yeah,
come on.
I just couldn't get. Was it a joke?
Yeah, he did not look good.
He was just
the Giants' O-line looked terrible. He looked great on his 41-yard scamper, but we correctly assessed his risk at 2. It could have even been a 1, but we gave him 2 because it's Saquon Barkley. So this seems to be a situation where you can trust the coaches and what they're saying, and then also look at the Giants' O-line is terrible, so you do need to look at matchups and adjust your expectations. So Washington, really good front 7. the one time they did create a hole, Saquon went for 41 yards. The other times there was people in the backfields. It was a mess. So we'll see how that progresses. But we did warn you about Saquon. All right. Should Saquon owners panic if you drafted Saquon in the first round?
Yes.
I don't think you should panic, but you should definitely start showing concern.
Yeah.
If
people are concerned about Gibson,
that'll help. Don't panic, but show concern. Because as your fantasy team's losing, as long as you look concerned.
But panic is like you're freaking out here.
No, panic is like you try to drop them or trade them.
No.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm saying like don't panic. Like I would start casually seeing what the market is.
So I would flip that.
He did not.
I would take your buddy out for a couple beers and then be like, "Hey, what do you think of Saquon Barkley?"
Yeah,
when you're trying to set your buddy up on a blind date. Do you ever hear of Saquon Barkley?
How you're describing him,
what do you think?
I would say,
what do you think about him?
Use that for Gibson, and I would say you drafted Saquon higher, and people drafted him higher to really hit because nobody expects Gibson to put up Barkley numbers if Barkley's healthy. So I mean, slightly worry about Gibson because he's almost getting there, but Barkley, you drafted him with the expectation that he'll be old school Barkley, which is like averaging 20 points a game. And he's not looking very good.
Listen,
it can still happen.
I'm all for believing that the O-line is at fault and Saquon Barkley is still super talented and he's going to have a fantastic season. But I would maybe suggest that the minute the coaches say, we're going to unleash Saquon Barkley, immediately see how many top players you can get for Saquon Barkley.
Yes.
See if you can get another top running back off of somebody else who's substantially more hyped by that news in the event that Saquon Barkley is not that great this season.
Yep. That's a fair strategy. Saquon Barkley against the Falcons in week 3, the Saints week 4, Dallas week 5. I think he will be unleashed in the next 3 weeks.
Yeah.
That is my prediction.
I just wanted to make a quick note. So hopefully, not too many people are contemplating benching Terry McLaurin, or hopefully a lot of you didn't bench Terry McLaurin because Taylor Heineke was behind center because he got 14 targets, 11 receptions, 107 yards, 1 TD. I mean, the guy's a beast.
He's uncoverable.
Is Heineke that quarterback you've been looking for Terry McLaurin? He could be.
He could. I mean, honestly,
he got better as the game went on.
Anthony, there is like really when you consider it, like just about anybody could step into Washington and be better than what's been there. So
but he was there.
He's the guy for now.
The old for Moose. Okay.
And I'm just going to jump ahead here. I'm having a Heineken for Heineke.
Yeah, and you totally blocked the mic there with the bottle of Heineken. So I can barely hear you.
You blew it like the New York Giants.
The New York Giants. There. Now the field goal was just now.
Yeah, you missed it, but you recovered. But those that are watching on YouTube would have understood perfectly. And if you're not already watching on YouTube, you probably should be because it's really fun. You get to see our faces and our reactions that we don't always vocalize. So go check us out on YouTube. Subscribe, hit the like. Thank you. Now we're going to talk about the rest of the guys on our graphic, which was released on Instagram, 3B Fantasy Pod on Instagram and everywhere. Hit us up. So talk about Saquon Barkley. Anthony, I'm going to let you pick the next person you want to talk about on our 6-pack risk scale.
This is another guy that I might throw in with my sleepers. I love KJ Hamler this week. KJ Hamler, we have him at 4 beers. I mean, the guy is stepping in. Part of the headlines that we didn't mention, it's not big news, but he was practicing with the first team,
which means the starters.
The starters, exactly. He's a guy that looked good in the preseason with both quarterbacks, Drew Lock and Teddy Bridgewater. He showed up in the first game of the season. Cortland Sutton doesn't look 100% yet, and we mentioned on our waiver wire episode that Tim Patrick is like touchdown dependent, like Noah Fant. So I think KJ Hamler, you can slot him in this week. They're playing the Jacksonville Jaguars defense.
And I'll tell you what,
put him in
Sutton,
your flex.
Off of his talent, his reputation, his size, will get the best cornerback matchup from Jacksonville. But I don't even think it matters anyways because Jacksonville is terrible. So whoever's covering KJ Hamler, it doesn't
Tell us
matter.
how you really feel.
Hold on. No. Because there's one real way to really, make a picture of this. The Texans beat Jacksonville last week.
They didn't beat them, Moose. They dismantled them.
Yeah.
They made them look like the Jacksonville house kittens. Like it was bad. It was bad. So, I mean, Tyrod Taylor and Brandon Cooks are tearing you up, and Mark Ingram, then you got issues. So I like any Bronco. I like anyone in a Bronco jersey this week.
Yeah.
So certainly KJ Hamler. Would you say KJ Hamler first? Like if you had the options of KJ Hamler, Tim Patrick, Cortland Sutton, how would you rank them?
I would put KJ Hamler, Cortland Sutton, Noah Fant, then Tim Patrick.
Okay.
As just throwing in another receiver. So
and I would agree. I would have to agree. So we're all in agreement. So KJ Hamler is at because he's still a young buck, second year. 4. We listed him at a 4 on our risk assessment, which means 4 beers. You're feeling pretty good.
Yeah. For a guy that was practicing with the second team onto the first team, that's pretty good.
Pretty good. Okay. Moose, who do you want to talk about next?
I want to talk about Najee Harris.
Mm-hmm.
Because I drafted him for my dynasty team, so obviously I'm excited to see what he can do. It was a little bit of a disappointment in week 1. Didn't really get to see, this potential breakout top talent running back. But this week he's playing the Las Vegas Raiders, who got torched by a 4th-string running back. Lamar broke off for a few runs. I mean, Latavius Murray got 2 yards. Good for him. So hopefully Najee will be able to just tear it apart. And but the Las Vegas defense is nothing to shake a stick at. They are also very good. Mm-hmm. So he could see a difficult matchup this week, but hopefully he shows us what we've all been waiting to see.
But just based off his usage, he'll have a good. He's got to.
You got to love that he's on the field 100% of the time.
Yeah,
it's wild.
Yeah.
So I agree. We have him at a 5 because he's still a rookie and hasn't proven himself yet in the NFL. 1 game under his belt, so we have him at a 5. But 5 beers, you're usually rocking with 5 beers. So. Absolutely. We like Najee. We like Najee Harris. You know who I don't like, guys? I really liked him as a draft prospect, but I don't like this week is my man Mike Davis of the Atlanta Falcons. He had an okay week last week, I think 10 points. He was certainly being used a lot for Atlanta, but they got destroyed by the Philadelphia Eagles. Let me say that again. They got destroyed by the Philadelphia Eagles, 38-3. I expect a bounce back week for them. But they're playing the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So I don't think that bounce back will happen on the ground with Mike Davis. Because we saw Dallas Cowboys decided, who have a potent offense, said, we're not even going to try. The few times they did hand it off to Ezekiel Elliott, who is much, much better than Mike Davis, nothing happened, didn't go anywhere. So that Tampa Bay Bucs run defense is excellent. It's top notch. I would just keep Mike Davis on the bench this week if I were you.
And I just every week with Mike Davis, until proven otherwise, I worry about the presence of Wayne Gallman in that backfield.
Yeah,
maybe. Mike Davis's usage was, I think he was had by far the majority of the touches. I will confirm. But
Well,
Gallman didn't play week 1.
Wayne Gallman had just been signed to the team pretty much that week.
Yeah. So we'll have to see this week.
So Mike Davis is a 2 on our scale. 2 beers. Exactly. 2 beer. Nobody likes a 2 beer Sally.
No.
2 beer Tommy? What's the expression?
I don't know, but I think it's the opposite. I think people do like a 2 beer Sally. Because it only
so those of you not watching us on YouTube, Dave's confused face was
2 beer Tommy. Whatever, Okay, well, we're moving on. Anthony, hit us with the next guy here on our list.
I'll just bring up again. We don't need to say that much. Jarvis Landry. We mentioned him earlier on in the podcast. We have him at 5 beers for our consensus. OBJ is not there. He's the number 1 wide receiver. They are playing, I believe, a weak defense as well.
The Browns are going to dominate this week.
It's Houston Texans.
They're playing the Houston Texans.
There you go. So Jarvis Landry, stick him in your flex. And play him confidently. That's all I have to say. He was my sleeper. I told you guys to draft him. Moose was like, he's boring. He may be boring, but he's the wide receiver 1 on a team that needs to you can trust Jarvis Landry. Even when he was in Miami and he didn't wow anyone, the guy has good hands. The guy makes his catches. The guy is always in double digits. So
the guy,
he doesn't lose you your fantasy week. That's the point.
Well,
he's
he
a great flex.
He has several times. But he's a good play this week.
Everybody has to, but majority of the time he does well for your team. He's in double digits. So put him in your flex. He's the wide receiver 1.
Landry's a good play this week. He's a good play. We have him at 5, so we have to agree he's a good play. I really like. Here's the other thing: if they get out to an early lead, Cleveland, they're gonna run. So the fact, if Odell's sitting, there aren't many other options to throw to. So I still like him. But Chubb and Hunt, I think if you have Chubb or Hunt this week, you're gonna be laughing. The Browns will make a statement. The Browns could have beaten Kansas City if they didn't mess it up at the end. So they're legit. All right, Moose. Who do you like?
Who do I have to talk about here?
Ooh, maybe a little Robert Tonyan, a little Jameis Winston action.
Yeah, I guess we could talk Robert Tonyan.
We have him at a 3. We have him at the old neutral position, 3 beers. It's like is your 6-pack half full or half empty? Moose?
Green Bay was an absolute disappointment week 1.
That's an understatement.
I think there's cause for concern, caution. And I know Anthony's big on the comeback game from Aaron Rodgers.
They're playing Detroit.
It's almost a guarantee.
They're playing Detroit.
Aaron Rodgers will put the Packers will put 40 points on the board.
It doesn't matter who Green Bay is playing. They should be able to beat them. They're a very strong team. They have. I mean, Aaron Rodgers MVP, Devontae Adams, Robert Tonyan's been solid. They have Aaron Jones, AJ Dillon. They have a very strong offense, and they were an embarrassment.
Definitely going to argue about this again, but I assume this is the first time this has happened with star players in the NFL. The first time in history where a top fantasy option has not done anything with their week. It's not the first time. And the Green Bay Packers are going to be a contender this year. Aaron Rodgers, yes, looked like Jay Cutler. His face said everything.
Hey, he looks old. He looks old. He looks weathered.
But he was the MVP last year. He will bounce back.
So
they're going to win their division because the division's terrible. I mean, the Bears are the next best team. It's obviously a terrible division. They're going to be a playoff team. They're going to win. Just messing with Anthony. They're going to crush.
But anyways,
they're going to put 40 points on the board.
Hold on. Everybody calm down.
I'm holding.
This is my Robert Tonyan.
We're calm.
So this is why Robert Tonyan is a concern, because it's going to be a comeback game. Is Aaron Rodgers likely to hit up Robert Tonyan a bunch of times? Who knows? For whatever reason, he was targeting Marquise Valdez-Scantling, who can't catch a ball for his life, overthrowing him. They looked like they hadn't even practiced together for months. They weren't running routes as they should have.
They didn't practice together for months because Aaron Rodgers was on vacation. So that's true.
Yeah. So there you go. So
it didn't go to the OTAs.
Yeah. So they look like it, and it's a disaster. So I can't put myself behind thinking that Robert Tonyan's going to have an epic game. I hope at best you hope that he gets a touchdown, couple of yards here and there.
Well, he has to be relevant. He is touchdown dependent.
This is it. So I think he's
most tight ends are, to be fair.
Right. So this is it. So I think we have him at a medium risk. He'll probably get a touchdown and a bit. So
a bit.
Yeah.
Touchdown and a bit.
He's not super excited about Robert Tonyan this week. Someone I'm a little more excited about, and I know Anthony will hop on here with me, and we're just waiting for Moose anytime now to get on the bandwagon, and that is Damien Harris. We have him at 4 beers, a healthy 4-beer consumption. Mainly for me, Anthony, I don't know if you agree, because he's going up against New York Jets. He got by far the most usage of the New England backfield in week 1. Ramondre Stevenson had like -1 yard, dealing with a broken thumb. James White is still pass catching back and not even use that frequently. Damien Harris even caught passes last week. So I think he is a fine play for a flex, or if you had to bench Saquon Barkley and Damien Harris is your only other guy, as is my situation in one league, I think he's fine. Anthony?
Yeah, I would have to agree. I would say the only reason we don't have him at a 5 is for a 5 or a 6. I don't think we would have put him at a 6 because it's the New England Patriots. But the only reason we don't have him at a 5 is because he did fumble last week. We know how Belichick feels about fumbles. But at the same time, like I mentioned on Monday, a lot of the football analysts came out saying that hopefully they don't do that because he was by far the best running back. He looked great running the ball. So 23 carries, 100 yards. The guy's a beast on the ground. So,
and that's great. I'm sure he is talented, but until Bill rolls him out every week in a consistent way, I'm not trusting it.
Well, so we don't want to overreact week 1, but we can only go by what the stats show us. So, yes. 23 carries.
What do the stats show us, Anthony?
23 carries for Damien Harris.
1 week. Let's read the stats from 1 week.
But that's what we have to go on. You can't go by last year's stats.
And last year he was putting up 100-yard games actually last year.
Which is why I made the beer bet for him. So going into this season,
who else was running with him? Sonny Michel.
But you forget the explanation.
Like he said Sonny Michel. Like
is it like, Sonny?
Sony?
What is it?
Definitely Sony.
Pretty sure it's Sonny.
But like we
in Philadelphia, always.
But like
Sony. Listen, Anthony. You guys can believe that Damien Harris is going to be this epic thing. He's not. He's just going to get a couple points every week.
We're not saying epic. You don't need to be epic to make it into the top 15. We've seen terrible players make it to the top 15
Davis last year.
But you keep saying, "Oh, last season Sony Michel was there." I specifically, when I talk about last season, it's when everybody else was injured and he was given the ball, he looked really good. And they gave him 23 carries. Everybody else, 4 carries, 1 carry.
What was the key thing you said? When nobody else was available.
Yes, but if
now everybody else is available.
If everyone was available, maybe you wouldn't get to see him with a full workload. You've seen him with a full workload.
Well,
all
listen,
4,
when it
Brandon
happens,
Bolden, Stevenson, James White, Harris, 23 carries versus 4, 1, and 1.
When it happens, I'll let you tell me that
it already started.
You told us
already started.
It's already begun.
1 week.
Let's 1 week Aaron Rodgers has a bad week and you're like, oh my God, he's the worst. Pick up a backup because he's going to be terrible.
Because
that's 1 week over.
Terrible.
Yeah, so he looked absolutely terrible. Damien Harris looked absolutely good.
Absolutely good. Really.
Yeah, well, he did. You're the only one who doesn't think. You didn't watch the game.
You didn't watch your Patriots?
What do you got? He got 10 points? 10 fantasy points?
9.7 half PPR.
Yeah,
it's
100 yards on the ground. A touchdown turns that into 15.7, right?
But he didn't get a touchdown.
Okay. When Josh Jacobs doesn't get any touchdowns, he's going to have 4 points. All right. Tom Brady has never had a 6-pack in his life of beer. Actually, he did one time with the Super Bowl parade last year, and we all saw what happened. But he does have a 6-pack on our scale because he is a lock this week, maybe the lock of the week for us. He is the safest play, one of the safest plays we can think of. Looked fantastic, has all the weapons, going up against the Falcons, who lost 36-3 to the Eagles. Do we need to say more? No, we don't. Joe Burrow, not a lock of the week. He's only at 3 beers. Just a young buck. 3 beers might be good enough for him. But what do we think about Joe Burrow's prospects this week? Why do we only have him at a 3? Why is he right in the middle ground?
I have Joe Burrow high.
So this is what I was going to bring up.
I think he's going to torch the Bears.
So he put him at a 5.
The Bears are pretty bad.
So yeah. Moose and I talked about this yesterday. We said we would stamp it in the sand on today's episode. I picked the Bears to win over the Cincinnati Bengals because he thinks Joe Burrow is going to torch them.
Yeah, he is.
You're picking the Bears to win?
I'm picking the Bears to win.
Oh, so you think Fields is going to play this week?
No, I think the defense is going to make Cincinnati.
Think Andy Dalton's going to win and beat the Bengals. Okay. Okay.
They beat the Bengals when the Bears were bad, and the Bengals were actually making it to the playoffs. So,
Anthony, did you watch it's Andy Dalton's former team to the Bengals, the Red Rifle against his
it's a revenge game.
Team. Revenge game. Anthony, did you watch the whole Bears game?
Yes,
against the Rams. Okay, it is against the Rams, so I don't want to overreact.
They didn't look terrible the whole game.
Okay,
really got out of hand.
I didn't see the game, so
right from the get go, they looked terrible.
I don't want to overreact to week 1, but Andy Dalton, just from that one game, did he look better than Mitch Trubisky with the Bears last year?
He looked more consistent. He didn't make big plays like how Mitch Trubisky. I don't think he has the arm Trubisky had and the running ability. He tried to run a few times, obviously not as fast, but his football IQ is better than Mitch Trubisky's. So the mistakes will be less, like the fumbles and the turnovers. I think when he's under pressure, he will do better than Mitch Trubisky. But I think the defense needs to bail them out a lot, like they always do. But the Bears have made the playoffs 2 out of 3 seasons with a terrible offense. So, I mean...
And the Bears lost their left tackle that they drafted in round 2, right? The rookie that we all... Yeah, Dave, flew under the radar a little bit.
Dave, they were going to have a good offensive line.
I'm here for you.
They were going to have a good offensive line for the first time in like 3 years. So it's just gone back to being bad when they were still making the playoffs. Okay. So I think Joe Burrow didn't play a full season last year, didn't get to go up against all the tough defenses in the league. I think Khalil Mack and Akeem Hicks are going to have a day. They're going to sack him a lot. And I don't think, so
Joe Burrow I think Joe Burrow got sacked 5 times in the first game. So, I just hope he stays healthy.
Are you getting in on this? Do you want to get in on this bet, or are you going to bail on this bet too? You can take either side.
I think I'd like to enjoy from the sidelines. I won't be sidelined, but I'm going to enjoy from the sidelines. I have no horse in this race, but I think it's going to be very interesting.
I didn't even realize I had a horse in this race either, but I'll giddy up. I'll giddy up and
giddy up. As Kramer does on Seinfeld. I predicted Justin Fields week 4 against the Lions. It could even be earlier.
Okay, but so Moose and I clearly said where we stand. You have him the lowest. You have him at a 2. Now, tell us why.
I do think that Bears defense is pretty good. I think it's a risky play.
So for fantasy, it is a risky play. We did see a decent week out of him. I would say if he does torch the Bears or win the game, I think now you can start to trust them on a week-to-week basis, because I think a lot of teams that wanted to wait on quarterback picked him very late and with the hope that he would be a starter. But I still think if he was playing a not so tough defense, I would definitely say start him this week, but it's the Bears defense, and that's the only thing the Bears have going for them. So I foresee turnovers for him. So for the fantasy side of it, I don't think it's good.
Who did the Bengals beat in overtime last week?
Minnesota.
Yes. Bears definitely more solid defense than Minnesota. So shall be interesting. All right, we're gonna roll through the rest of this list, or should people just refer to our Instagram page?
Stay with that team.
Oh, stay with the Bengals. Yeah, we got to talk about Jamar Chase. We have Jamar Chase also at 3 beers. Another young player, rookie, with 3 beers. It's good enough. He looked good. Didn't look like he was dropping a lot of balls last week. What do we think for this week?
I also have Meta 5 because that's who he's going to torch the Bears defense.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
And I put him at a 2.
You put him at a 2. I put him at a 3, and I don't think I didn't put him that low because I think he's going to draw balls or whatever. I think this is an offense where we still don't know week to week who's going to be the lead receiver. So he had a very good first week. I think it's still possible he could get into the double digits, maybe the early double digits, but is it going to be a big T. Higgins week? Is Tyler Boyd going to get
Higgins? In there? That was a one-word name.
T. Higgins and Tyler Boyd, or I would assume that T. Higgins is the wide receiver 1.
So T. Higgins? Oh, you mean T. Higgins?
Okay, good word. He wants to roll through these, but he's just going to interrupt. But so I would just say wait and see how this week goes, and then you can probably slot him in week to week at a flex spot or your wide receiver 2 spot.
And they only threw to Tyler Boyd 4 times,
right?
But they're going to purposely try to get him more involved next week, I'm sure.
And T. Higgins, the reason why he was having a very good game, but he did not play the whole fourth quarter, which also helped Jamar Chase. He was not stretchered out. He was carted off the field. I had an IV.
Anthony, did you wish that upon him?
No.
Oh, good.
You're
just talking about injuries, so I just wanted to make sure.
That was reporting a past injury.
I just wanted to make sure
and
that
not predicting a future one. No, there's a difference. He's reporting a past injury, not predicting a future one.
So I would just say, make sure there are no headlines close to game day about T. Higgins. If there are and he's hampered by injury, I would say then I would probably raise my beers on Jamar Chase. Keep an eye on that.
All right. Let's just read off the rest of these bad boys before we get into our next segment.
Yeah.
So we missed on.
We mentioned Noah Fant.
Did
we mention him briefly,
but
before.
he has 4 beers on our list. He was ranked behind. We like KJ Hamler and Cortland Sutton better. And then Jameis Winston. Our man, Jameis Winston, is a 5 beer on our scale because he looked great last week. They have a pretty favorable matchup against Carolina Panthers. I think Panthers could be a good D, but I think if the Saints can throw on Green Bay, they can throw on Carolina. So we have him up at a 5. And he was one of our streamers, one of our waiver wire pickups.
Correct.
All right, gentlemen. Is it time for our next segment?
It is.
Well, then. They said it on Reddit.
Not bad.
Moose?
Better than last time. Oh, he's not happy.
No,
so
go. I'm just kidding.
Dave threw his pen.
Do we actually have one? You guys didn't say anything.
Yes, I did. It is posted in the chat.
Posted in our Slack.
So this one's coming from user Ox Baker. Ox_Baker. Which player do you fear the most? I mean, we know CMC is great and all that, but who is the guy who has gone off against you basically every time you go against him? The one who makes you sick to your stomach every time you see him in your opposing matchup because you know he's going to do it again. For me, it's Tyreek Hill. I bet his best game or 2 every year has happened when I'm going against him. It's more inevitable than Thanos. Who's yours?
I was going to say Tyreek Hill, Travis Kelce, Dalvin Cook.
So the best players in fantasy. But yeah.
Well, yeah. That is who you would fear the most. I'm not fearing Raheem Mostert.
But is there, I don't really ever pay attention to that, but like getting burned by someone, but
no, but obviously when you're looking at who you're playing that week, you're looking at their lineup and you're going, shoot, he's going to get a lot of points with this guy. He's going to get a lot of points with that
but
guy.
It'd be interesting if you had someone like, it'd be interesting if like it was Jarvis Landry and you're like, every time I play Jarvis Landry, he just smokes me.
Yeah.
It just
so
happens
of course. Of course.
Yeah.
It could
so
be.
like, for example, one of our buddies, Nick, who played you in the finals, his nightmare must be Alvin Kamara with 6 touchdowns. I mean, that's his nightmare. But for mine, last year
but
in
Anthony,
all my
he's the top guy.
Yeah, well, he's a top guy, but for him, that's his memory. For me,
this is it.
It's Justin Jefferson. He had his first year last year. I mean, I wasn't so lucky in my leagues to play the team with Justin Jefferson in the first 3 weeks of the season. I got him on all his best games in all my leagues. It seemed like I remember freaking out at work because I'm playing him in, I think it was 3 out of 5 leagues. In different leagues, what are the chances I play him in 3 out of my 5 leagues the same week and he just went off and it was brutal.
I mean, if I'm being really honest, the player I fear the most is any Dolphins player that ends up on my team. Because
Not for good reasons.
Because I fear they're just going to be a disaster.
And who's yours, Dave? Besides, is there a matchup you remember?
No, like it's usually
this
like
week
it's always
against Terry McLaurin.
Could be, could prove to be. And you know what? One of the consequences of playing in so many leagues is that you're almost bound, like with the top players. If you're against them, you probably have them in a league somewhere. So it's always like, I got burned. And you're like, but this other league, I have the guy. So Terry McLaurin, I have in one of our other leagues. Moose burned me in Dynasty, but I have him somewhere else. So it all evens out. I usually pay attention to my guys and not who burns me.
Yeah, so that's what
control over that.
That's what I was just going to say. I think,
players on your own team who don't perform when they're supposed to.
I remember
that's what you remember. Odell or people who get hurt, like Odell Beckham last year, right?
Deontay Johnson.
Deontay Johnson dropping the ball. I went back to the well though,
literally and figuratively.
Yes,
that
all
guy. That I've told the story a million times, but that Darren McFadden, when I rolled him in my lineup when I had an injury, he helped me make it almost to the playoffs. And in the last game I needed to win, he fumbled 3 times. He could have fumbled twice and I would have won. He fumbled 3 times and I didn't make the playoffs.
Ouch.
Kind of like what Lamar Jackson almost did to me this past week. Fumbled twice. I just won by 2. I think
Lamar.
it was 1 point something. So, yeah, it's the ones that screw you are the ones that you
On
remember.
your own team. Yeah.
All right. So, Dave, you can't recall a situation where an opposing player went off just like ridiculously against you.
Well, there's definitely been, like, for sure Tyreek Hill has gone off against me. I know that. Mahomes has gone off against me. I know that. But it hasn't been so often that it's hurt me, and it hasn't been like Monday Night Football and the last. Mark Andrews. Mark Andrews last year in the playoffs. So it was a combination last year of Deontay Johnson dropping the ball and then getting benched, and then Mark Andrews. Remember last year against our boy Jordan? And Mark Andrews, he should have won. He needed like 7 points or 8 points, but he was like no catches in the first half, and I was like, oh my gosh, I might actually have a chance to go to the semifinals, even though Deontay dropped the ball. And then there was that ridiculous throw that Lamar scrambled and threw. It was the poop game. Lamar left the game. Supposedly,
and then
he took a poop and he came back and he threw that ball to Mark Andrews, and then that's what won. That's what lost me the game. So I do remember that one from last year. Yeah, I do.
I just took a quick scroll through all the comments.
Yeah, I figured that's what you were doing.
It basically, as quickly all the things I could see was Tyreek Hill, Alvin Kamara, Christmas.
So Alvin Kamara Christmas was ridiculous. A lot of people were probably a sure win. Like the platform was predicting 95% chance to win, 99, and then here comes Alvin Kamara.
And people were sitting at home.
6-pack. He got the 6-pack at Tutties.
Yeah,
it's because he was wearing Christmas cleats, which he got fined for.
When he was at 2 touchdowns, people were probably like, he ain't gonna get a third. Gets a third. He's definitely not gonna get 4.
I can tell you because I remember sitting on my couch. And when he got like the first 2 touchdowns, I was like, yes, this is beautiful. What a great playoff. And then he got the third one. And I remember freaking out because I was like, no way he gets another one. And then he like, you got like 2 more. And I just remember every time I was like, no way, there's no way he just got another one. It was amazing.
Bonkers.
Yeah, that's having Kamara on Christmas last year was Christmas in itself. My goodness. Guys, I went beerless today, but I had have you guys ever told you
it's a surprise?
Ever told you about my nudes? Have I ever shown you my nudes? I think I've shown you a few nudes, but here's one. You'd have to be watching YouTube and definitely want to subscribe and like, and you can see my nudes. And it is a strawberry kiwi nude, vodka soda, delicious, 0 sugar, healthy.
And don't worry, listeners. Dave has a beer to chug for the lost beer bet. He should chug it before Sunday.
Unless Moose wants to double down for Dynasty this week.
No. I'm taking the chug.
Since you don't normally beer bet, just take your loss. I know you want to keep your record of
the most
drinking
beer bets last year.
Yeah, you keep saying that, but I mean, it's.
I thought we don't backtrack.
Last year's over.
Moose, he's backtracking.
He's backtracking.
Oh, Anthony, you jump all over the place like Mario going through the warp tunnels, like the green things.
It was those 2 episodes, and then I've made a turn for the better, and you've seemed to
turned
be
over a new leaf.
I'm also, guys. I'm also changing our podcast. It's now going to be called Ballers, Beers, Vodka, Sodas, and Banter.
Did you mean to switch the beers out? Ballers, vodka, soda, and banter?
Well, no, you're the only one drinking vodka soda.
You messed that up. Oh, okay. So it's just for me.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah. How did you get that?
Vodka soda / water and banter.
Yeah.
I don't drink beer during the week. You guys know that. Healthier.
But
stay off those carbs.
Not really.
So lost beer bets are lost
Definitely.
beer bets. The public wants to see you chug on Instagram.
Okay. Or do you dare me to do something?
No. It's a beer bet. Chug the beer.
I'll take the dare.
I got a really good dare.
Okay.
You ready?
Dare me to chug a beer?
I dare to chug a beer.
I knew it. All right. For you guys. For you.
No, well, it's not only for us. It's for the public.
It's not going to kill you.
First one of the season.
So, and like I mentioned before, I'm having a Heineken for Heineke.
I'm because tonight I'm staying up real late. That's kind of why I want to do the podcast late. The iPhone 13 has been released to the East Coast. It'll be available for pre-purchase at 2 a.m. So I'm gonna stay up and get my order in. So apparently there's limited amounts, but I am drinking some Innocent Gun, but it's special. It's the Caribbean rum cask.
Ooh, that's a very good one.
It's okay. It's not my favorite, but it's nice.
Okay.
It's a little bit different.
So who would the fantasy player be? Who's like someone, it's not your favorite, but it's nice. So the Innocent Gun Caribbean cask, who would you liken that to a fantasy player or football player? We're fantasy players. Would it be a Jarvis Landry? Would it be, Moose hates everybody unless they got him 6 touchdowns on Christmas.
What?
Okay, who is it then? Who's your Caribbean cask?
I probably hype up more players than anybody.
Yeah, but like 90% of them never see like the field. So we're like, who? Michael Hasty? I played one game.
It's like you talk up players that aren't on your team, and then you win because you don't have the players you talk up on your team.
That's not true. He put his money where his mouth is for quite a few players this year.
In the auction league this year, he which is cool.
And Anthony, I do want to say that so far your sleepers are performing very well, Anthony. So
except Pittman.
And
speaking of auction league, I know who it is. It's Mike Evans.
Who's kind of nice,
I'm not thrilled about it, but I'll deal with it.
There you go.
Okay, so that beer will let you down in week 15.
He already let me down in week 1, so I anticipated week 15 let down.
So maybe it'll be a reversal this year. Maybe he'll come alive for fantasy playoffs.
It's kind of like how I never drafted Aaron Rodgers before I draft him. He plays terribly. You draft Mike Evans, and of course he has a crappy week 1.
Yeah, you're a Bears fan, Anthony. I'd be drafting Aaron Rodgers. Like, don't say that out loud again. Maybe blasphemy.
It's fantasy. I know your team.
I know.
Doesn't really matter.
All's fair in love and war and fantasy football.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay, guys. Well, words of wisdom before we depart.
Yes, this is the most important words of wisdom. I said it on multiple episodes, but tonight it's the most relevant.
Whoa.
Because I trusted my gut. I started Terry McLaurin in a PPR league, and we got 27 points, 28 points,
27 in PPR.
27.7.
21 in half point.
27.7 if you use decimal point scoring, and trusted my gut. So always.
After I convinced him to use his gut.
Thank you, Anthony. But I think the confusion was I wasn't sure what my gut was telling me. There was a bit of confusion, but you helped me sort out what my gut
there you go.
Was.
And you and I were both successful this week by playing him.
In retrospect, should we need convincing to play Terry McLaurin? Let's be honest. He should occupy one of your 2 wide receiver spots or your flex.
But the question was not whether Terry McLaurin would be talented or whatever. We know Terry McLaurin's a stud. The question is the short week, the new quarterback, the New York Giants defense. Those were really the questions that were being taken into consideration.
And now they seem so silly. They seemed legitimate.
They seem so silly
3 hours ago, but now they seem so silly.
It's also comparing to the people that you might have on your team as well.
Right.
So, and Anthony and I were considering potentially Christian Kirk, who had a very successful week last week.
Right.
He'll probably get 4 points this week.
I also described Terry McLaurin yesterday as not on the same line, but just a little bit below, since Allen Robinson, Roman numeral 2, is elite. These two wide receivers have played with mediocre to terrible quarterbacks their entire career, and plenty of them, and they're both very successful. Terry McLaurin, I think, will take a step up this year. I think Heineke was a guy that I was low-key excited about to take over the starting position, and right now it seems that they have a rapport. So don't bench McLaurin ever.
Never,
ever.
You've heard it here first.
So
unless he's injured,
but
I don't wish for injuries.
I know we don't jump back, but always put your best gut forward. Put your best gut forward.
The Kelvin is increasingly coming lower and lower in the northern hemisphere. So bundle up, dress warmly. As always, thanks for listening. See you next time. Ciao.